Welcome to Geek Herring, a critical geek culture podcast where we talk about intersectional and inclusive feminism in a male-dominated environment. Hi, I'm Amanda, and with me today is my lovely, amazing, and giving me a whole bunch of grief because apparently I'm whispering when I'm only just speaking in my normal voice co-host, Monica. Hello, Monica.
Hi, that's a lot of... That's not the whole story here, all right?
It's the entire story. That's
just what you hear.
And that is the story.
No, that's not how it goes.
That's exactly how it goes.
Whatever. Hi, how are you doing? I'm doing, I think. That's
doing.
All I can say. The last couple of weeks we've been doing, and today we're also doing, and that's all we can hope for at times.
Yep, I agree.
But I'm doing, on another side of the spectrum, I'm doing great because we have spectacular people on today.
Yes, we do. A very spectacular person who I am so proud to have on and very excited to hear her story because we have Demeternoth, aka Demi. Hello, Demi.
Hello! Thank you for having me here today.
We're so happy.
It's so kind of surprising that we didn't have you on earlier, to be honest.
Well, you know, good things come to those who wait. So
exactly.
I think we've all been waiting a while. It's okay. Yeah.
True.
Yes. So for anybody who doesn't know Demi, she is a local bisexual MMO streamer. She is really fucking awesome. On the Twitch, she makes very entertaining Twitter shitposts. Less shitposts, actually, just very good Twitter posts. And she is just an absolute delight who you can find probably streaming Warcraft or Final Fantasy or her podcast Talking Shit with
That's
Cat
the one.
Fantastic. Did I get it?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, look at that memory.
Yeah, lots of fingers and lots of pies. So, yeah.
You're in good company.
That's how it goes, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, whatever you enjoy, you got to do, right? Because life
Absolutely.
is short.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You gotta just throw stuff at the wall, take the opportunities that come, see what's fun, try it out. If it's not fun, you know, I think you have to give things sort of a bit of time. You can't, you know, 2 or 3 goes might not be enough. And then you'll soon figure out if you're enjoying it or not. And then you can carry on or walk away. So
it's true. Also, I guess sometimes you can just, like, some things are good for a season, then they pause, and then they come back for another season or different things. So floating with the flow of life. Wow.
I feel like that really ties into all of my poo analogies. So
all of your what?
Possibly, yeah.
My poo analogies on whether an idea is a turd or a floater or a sinker.
Yeah, I can go with that.
You need to elaborate on this story because I'm not sure I've heard this before.
What? Really?
I literally analyze your ideas, whether or not they're a floater, a sinker, or what is sinker?
A floater or a sinker. Is it a good idea or a bad idea? And I coined this with you. I feel like we're breaking up, Moni.
Listen, I've been to the musical on the weekend. To a musical I have already seen before. And I shit you not, I could not remember a single fucking thing about this. And it even ended in the end with fire and pyrotechnics and a bang and everything. And I was just sitting there thinking, how do I not remember this? But I did not remember a single thing about this. And I do remember I really liked it the first time I saw it. But I couldn't remember anything.
Couldn't remember any of the details.
No details. I could not remember the end of it, like what happened. Like I could not remember like the names of the people, I mean, they were all fucking absurd anyway, so I give myself credit for that I didn't remember them. That's fine. But I couldn't, like, I was sitting there trying to figure out how it would end, even though I had seen it before, and even though in the end everything burns down and there was a loud bang where I almost shot myself. And I was still sitting there thinking, like, no recollection of it whatsoever. So I feel like you need to give me some credit here, because this is not the only thing I apparently forget in my life.
But my thing is about poo. And I feel like you normally remember poo things.
But I've talked so much shit all the time. I feel that just sinks in the amount of shit talk I do. In all the areas, in all the ways also, not just the literal shit, but general shit. It's just it's always about like a big massive pile of poop.
I don't think Demi was prepared for this.
Sorry, Demi.
I wasn't, but it's fine. I mean, I could have like studied up on like poop if I'd have needed it.
Well, I feel we haven't had a full episode on it yet, but we could have filled separate if we collected all our.
But you know, poop is a good indicator of how well you are as well. You know, consistency, colour, all of that, very important.
One of the first podcasts that I ever worked on professionally was about poop, and it was very, very detailed podcast about poop, and it was like 4 years ago, and I still remember many of the facts that were in that poop episode.
There
and
you go.
That's the reason why we have poop shelves, because then you can better look at your poop.
Yeah, I don't have them in the UK.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, we definitely had them at my parents' house. We don't really have one here, but I've recently been in a toilet again where there was a poop shelf, and then I remembered. I was like, oh yeah.
That's what that's for.
This is a good thing.
Yeah.
This is not the worst thing to have, and because just the idea of a floating poo in a bowl of water is also very weird to me. But all right. Anyway, this is not a podcast about shit like usual. We have greater things to talk about.
Gives new meaning to the podcast name, Talking Shit, though.
It does. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was just thinking that.
Yep.
It's true. Also, I have to tell you, you kind of stole Tom's and my idea. Which is not true, which is not actually an idea. But it was very funny in hindsight. Because Tom and I always, when Amanda was in Canada, we had we generally, the three of us, used co-work on a Wednesday. And so when Amanda was in Canada, Tom and I still co-worked. So we always chat before we do some co-working. And then we called it, this could be, and Tom always mentioned, this could be a podcast episode. This could have been a podcast episode. And then we called the podcast, We Talk About Shit, like we with the English we.
Yeah.
Because it's double smart. And then a couple of months later, you came with Talk About... I forgot the full title now, but the
Talking Shit one.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, look, more people had that great idea.
Which Cap and I do co-work. We do work together. So, you know.
Love
yeah. Yeah.
It's a good time to talk shit, literally.
Yeah.
It still happens when they go off on like a tangent. Sometimes I just tune them out and do my own thing.
Wow. So
sorry.
Rude.
I'm pretty sure it was obvious though.
Out.
Glazed over look.
Yeah.
Looking to the side.
I'm looking over at this screen now.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, you don't appreciate our great conversations. It's your own fault.
I listen like 50%.
It's like listening to a podcast
It's like listening
in general,
to a podcast.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So now that we've had this really delightful conversation about poop, Demi, do you want to move into our rapid fire round?
Of course, yeah.
Excellent. This is where we get to know you real quick, but it doesn't actually have to be quick, but that's okay. Okay. Where are you from?
I am from the Midlands of the UK. So if you're looking at a map and you see Nottingham, Leicestershire, Derbyshire, I'm in that vicinity of Great Britain.
Okay. I don't think I've ever really been around that area.
Well, when people ask me where I'm from, and I say near Nottingham and then they say and then you go Robin Hood, and then they're like, okay. And actually, I'm about 50 minutes from there, but it's the closest place that anybody actually knows.
That's
so
true.
yeah, that's what we have
You
to go
always
with.
need to mention the one that's the most popular, because people are otherwise not able to put you on the map anywhere. No. And to be honest, for US folk, that would be like just around the corner.
Yeah.
True. I'm like 50 minutes. Oh yeah, that's really close.
Yeah. I think if my hometown had like a greater population, it would be easier to say this is where I'm from. But I live in quite a small town. So, you know, it would not be difficult to find where I am. And as we know, as women on the internet, that's not always a good thing. So.
Yeah. Not everybody needs to know where exactly you are.
Yeah.
I mean, also, to be honest, living in a small town, I have very low fear of people coming after me, because even though you know where I am, there's literally nothing you can send after me. Like, come at me with a couple of cows. I think it would be a hard time to find an assassin around here.
Fair.
You never know.
Yeah, whatever.
Bunkers, assassins, Sound of Music. It's all going on in Austria.
Yeah.
Sound of Music, excuse me.
Hey, you know what that movie was about.
The Nazis, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, Demi, what are your pronouns?
She, her. Not like I said earlier in Squadcast, he, her, by mistake, because I missed the S off. Not that there's anything wrong if that's what you want, but yeah, I am she, her, so.
Thank you. And when are you a geek since? So a year and maybe a story of a first geeky experience?
So I was thinking about this, and I think probably, like, my hoodie, which is kind of hidden by my microphone, there you go. My hoodie might give it away a little bit. I sort of track my geek roots back to watching Star Trek: The Next Generation when I was sort of, well, it was in the living room with my dad, and it was sort of Doctor Who, Star Trek, Next Generation. So that's sort of my era. I guess I would have been 10, 12, that kind of age. And I've sort of gone on from there with Star Trek. All that, like, for the rest of my life. I wrote my university thesis on it, of all things, and actually that kind of that kind of cemented my love of it more, I think. So that's probably where it comes from. I didn't really get into sort of the fantasy side until I started playing World of Warcraft like 15 years ago or whatever. But yeah, a much stronger basis in sci-fi geekery. But I think sort of 10, 11, 12, maybe a bit younger for Doctor Who, because I definitely remember hiding behind the sofa for some Doctor Who episodes because they were so scary as a kid. But Star Trek's probably where I kind of went full hog, if you like, and embraced it all a bit more.
The Star Trek is one thing that I've never gotten into, and I feel like I really should, because I think I'd like it. But I also feel like it's an investment.
It is an investment, but I think there's a beauty to it that so there are some Star Trek fans who, even as a Star Trek fan, they're a little bit much. And they can be, well, you have to like all of it. And that's ridiculous, because there is so much Star Trek. There's the original series, which was groundbreaking in its own way. There's the Next Generation, which was allegedly what Gene Roddenberry wanted the original series to be, but the networks weren't up for it. They weren't ready for it. Then you've got the films, which, hand on heart, the only film that I have seen, apart from the more recent ones, is First Contact. I have not watched any of the Shatner films. So I haven't done all of those. But then you've got Enterprise, which was the Scott Bakula series. I don't really get on with Enterprise either, but I love all of the new stuff. I love Strange New Worlds. I love Discovery. I love Picard. All of that has been fantastic. So, you know, there is something for everybody. There's the Lower Decks series, which is like an animated series of, rather than these high level people up on the bridge who actually, you know, make all the decisions and whatever, it's the people that actually go down, you know, it's the guys that are scrubbing the toilets effectively, you know, so it's a much, you know, it's the people on the ground, and it's a utopian version of the vision of the future, and the portrayal of minorities of all makeups and backgrounds has always been a strong presence in Star Trek. And I think that's only got better as sort of it's grown and it's developed, you know, and even in sort of the Next Generation era where we had Voyager and Deep Space Nine as well, we had a trans character effectively. We had people who had been through those things. We had gay couples, and it wasn't. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, Star Trek didn't used to shoehorn these things in." It's like, it's always been part of Star Trek. You just didn't notice it, and now you've suddenly become so conservative that you've decided it is shoehorning it in. It isn't, and it never has done. It always makes sense for the character, and sometimes it's as simple as a male presenting character walking around in the background in a skirt, in a mini skirt, you know, and it can be as simple as that. And back in the original series, that was a huge deal because you just didn't see it. So yeah, I just love it, and I love it more the older I've got as well. So little interesting tidbit: Lucille Ball is the whole. If it hadn't been for her, Star Trek would never have been produced in the first place because she pushed the network. For the original series, she pushed them to get it produced. So without her, we wouldn't have Star Trek at all.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
Yeah,
Wild.
Yeah.
No, that's so cool. That makes me really want to watch Star Wars. Wow.
You can watch Star Wars too. That's the other thing. People are like, "Do you like Star Wars or Star Trek?" And I'm like, "I like them both."
Yeah, it's
why not both?
I understand why this is a conflict of interest, because it's literally about similar things.
Yeah,
it's about aliens and outside and world and space and shit. Like, what's the problem? Like, don't understand.
Yeah. Sorry. Apologies for my brain. It's just like
okay.
The word that comes after star is clearly wars. So obviously, we can include Star Trek as one of your biggest influences. But what are some of your others?
Well, Star Wars is one of them, but that's more to do with Carrie Fisher. She's been, more so in later life, has been a big influence on me. I'd also say sort of the Marvel Cinematic Universe kind of scooped me up and carried me along a lot as well. What else? Fantasy-wise, I've gotten into I was a huge Game of Thrones fan. I got into Wheel of Time thanks to the Amazon Prime series. I've gone through all of the books for that now.
Oh, wow. You've read them all? I've only made it through 3 of them so far.
I have to hold my hand up and say I did it all on Audible.
That's nothing wrong with that. I'm just
literally nothing wrong with
impressed
that.
because they're chunky books.
Yeah, they are hugely chunky books, but at the time that I was listening to most of them, I was working as a domestic cleaner, so I had an audiobook on all the time, and it made a huge difference. So yeah, I think those sorts of things have come to me as well. And yeah, like Doctor Who way back, that was always been a big influence. I haven't done as much with the newer series. I liked Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant and Matt Smith, and then I kind of lost interest in it along the way there as well. But yeah, I think lots and lots of things really.
Is so gay. I think this is a must watch for everyone, just because
I'll be giving it a try, and also because Jinx Monsoon's going to be in it, so I think there's a lot to be said for it. and trying it again. But yeah, those are sort of the things that really got me. And you know, in terms of computer games, we didn't have a console growing up. We had an Amstrad, an Amstrad PC with like a knockoff version of Frogger on it. And then we got a flight simulator. And then I think the first time I ever actually owned a console was a PlayStation 1 or 2 when I got Tekken, and I got into that. But then it was always like very game specific. So I loved Godfather on Xbox. I loved God of War on the PlayStation Portable. I played that on, going way back. And then I had Sims on the PC and Age of Empires. And then I really didn't play anything until WoW. And WoW was the game that I played and still play for more on. I've had breaks, but you know, consistently for 30 years. No, since I was 30, not 30 years. Jesus, for 15 years. But yeah, that's and now I think like a lot of people after the World of Warcraft, well, the Blizzard Entertainment, Activision Blizzard King debacle, it kind of the blinkers came off a bit, and I play a lot of other games now. Like I got back into The Sims. I started Final Fantasy. I want to play other games. I've started playing Overwatch of all things. So yeah, there's a lot. But it's, yeah, I love all of it. I love all the geeky stuff. Like there's areas that I'm not as au fait with, and there's like Star Trek is probably the one that I'm most deeply embedded in, and that's apart from WoW possibly. But yeah, I love all of it. If somebody tells me like this is a really geeky thing, I think you'll like it, I'll be like, okay, I'll try it.
I love that. And you've answered our question about your current geeky pastimes.
Oh yeah,
you just bled that right in there, and I love it. So how are you finding, sorry, just total tangent here, how are you finding Overwatch 2 compared to Overwatch?
So I didn't really play the first Overwatch. I'm not a kind of shooter game player really. It's just never been my thing. And I got into it because one of the stream teams that I'm on, Teamwork, is having an Overwatch tournament for Pride, and that's going to be awesome fun. So a few of us in there that are not really FPS players have said, okay, we'll join in and you can carry us. And it's turned out to be something that, yeah, my kid and I play together. We really enjoy it. And he's amazing at those games. Yeah. Like I am horrific.
Quick, know what they're doing.
But he's really good, and he's a really patient teacher as well. Actually, so we really enjoy playing. And that's been really good fun. So as somebody who's like, I've dabbled in Fortnite as well, but I'm not great at that. I got a second because I hid.
Well,
that was the only way I was
how strategy. It works 90% of the time. Yeah. It's called strategy, exactly.
Yeah.
And
so yeah, but I like Overwatch. I find the friction between learning and getting my ass handed to me every single fight every 3 seconds a little frustrating, but I know that with time and practice I can get better.
What's that like?
So up to a point. I'll never be great, but I will improve up to a point. Like, and I've swapped characters. So I'd started on Ash because I thought she was really cool. Mm-hmm. And then I quickly realised I am not the person to play this character yet. She demands a lot more skill than I have. So I switched.
Had the same experience with her. I was like, ooh. Yeah,
she's awesome, but to get the best out of her ultimate and her abilities, you know, you need to know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I don't. So I switched to Soldier 76, he's built as an entry level character. He's built to be easy. You know, you basically point and shoot, and he's got a heal, and his ultimate is to run, you know, not his ultimate, but his ultimate is that you can target something without having to target, which for me is spectacular. But he's also got an ability to run, just straight run faster. You don't have to jump up in the air. You don't have to like target anything or look at anything. You just jump, you just run faster. I was like, okay, this is straightforward. I can handle this. So I think I'll be doing Soldier 76. And I really like it. I like the aesthetics of it. I like the cartoony look, the bright colours. I don't imagine I'm the sort of person that's ever going to step into COD, because why would I put myself through that? But playing Overwatch with a group of friends where you're chatting via Discord and you don't have to go via Overwatch voice lobbies or anything like that, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
I like it as well. I wish that I could play it longer, but it gives me motion sickness after a while.
Oh goodness.
With the FPS.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy it, and I'm like, I could see myself playing this a lot if I didn't have to not play it.
Yeah.
If I didn't have to not play it.
Yeah. So we don't have a specific topic today. As we've discussed, we mostly just want to chat with you and hear about, your experiences on Twitch and in podcasting, because Talking Shit isn't your first podcast, is it?
No, it's not.
Talking about your experiences in game and basically anything else you want to talk about, just because we think you're awesome.
It's very kind of you to say so. Thank you.
It's just facts.
Well, you mentioned about Talking Shit not being my first podcast. It's not. So the first one that I really got my teeth into, well, the first one that I did and I was able to get my teeth into was the Third Faction, and that was alongside Bricko. The podcast is still running, now hosted by Bricko and Miss Listra, and that was set up unfortunately for us, although actually it turned out in our favour. We launched that. We'd been talking about it for a while, and we launched it the week after the allegations came out about the Method raid team and one particular member who was alleged to have raped somebody, and it was and we launched on with that as like the backdrop, launching a podcast called The Third Faction, designed because we wanted to, we thought, we're not Horde, we're not Alliance. We play both factions. The third faction is the player base and the people that enjoy the game, and we want to help people find other good, safe environments to go and enjoy, whether they're content creators or they're players or whatever it might be. And we had to launch on the back of that. So our first episode was me and Bricko going, this is exactly why we need this podcast and why we are not going to stand for this sort of stuff. So that was the background, and I enjoyed my time doing it. I got to interview some fantastic people in the WoW community, some very well-known names, and introduce some lesser known people to the community as well, and hopefully help them engage with more people and spread their message, and I really enjoyed it. The problem was, the reason that I had to step back, I stepped back the beginning of last year, essentially because I had no energy. I was done. I was streaming, I was podcasting, I was running my own business, raising my child, looking after the house. I'm a lone parent, so immediately you have significantly reduced time, energy, interest, priorities. Basically everything kind of falls beside the wayside, and I'd also stepped away from World of Warcraft for a bit. At that point I was a guild leader. Our raid leader at the time had been out for a while because he'd broken his shoulder doing a Naruto run in the car park. It's really helpful of him.
I mean, upsetting, but also what a legendary way to break your hand.
What a great way to knock yourself out of everything for a while.
Any time I want to knock myself out, it's because I did a Naruto run in a weird place.
Yeah. So he was doing a Naruto. I think they'd been to like a fireworks display or something, and he was running back to the car, and he did a Naruto run and fell over, landed on his shoulder, broke all of his collarbone. So he was out basically, so he couldn't raid lead. And I find raid leading I am just not built for it. Like, I can lead a team in a business environment. I've done it. I'm happy to do it. It's not a problem. But doing it in a raid environment, it's too much pressure. And as a melee DPS character, I might even have been tanking at that point. Not sure. It was too much. So when he came back from there, I stepped away from WoW for a bit, took a bit of a break, stopped the podcast, stepped away from the podcast as well, and just kind of had a bit of a break from everything. Really, I must have been playing Final Fantasy at that time. I can't remember 100% if I was, but I would have been doing something. And I just stepped away from the podcast. And then in May last year, the big thing that changed was I got a job. I wound up the business and went back into like working for a big corporation, but in a sort of entry level job. So I've learned a lot. My brain is like quite happy to have enough to learn and enough to do without coming out of it at 5 o'clock and going, oh my God, I'm just exhausted. And I do more hours than I did self-employed, but literally at 5 o'clock I'm done. I don't have to carry it home with me. Yeah.
Compare.
Such a difference.
You cannot compare the self-employed brain with the employed brain. It's just...
It's a completely different world.
Even if you just do just working 20 hours as a self-employed person is not just working 20 hours as a self-employed person.
It's definitely not. It's hard work being self-employed, and I did it for the time that I needed to do it when kiddo was young, and I needed to be there for him, and he's just turned 11 now. I've been in the job nearly a year, and what it's enabled me to do is have the brain power again to think about creating other things. So the podcast with Cap, apart from like being able to do a podcast with one of my best friends and being able to talk about anything and everything that we think of, which we had wanted to do some kind of like third faction after dark kind of thing where we would talk about those sorts of things, but it just wasn't feasible at the time. And being able to do it with Cap, also on the same time zone, I can't tell you how much of a difference that makes as well.
It really does.
It really does. So being able to do it with Cap on the same time zone, and we try and do it for we're supposed to do half an hour. We never manage half an hour. We always go over. Yeah. And we, it's an absolute joy, and we're feeling our way out with it still, and it's early days, and we're taking a break this week because we know we need to make some tweaks, and then we just have to we're still feeling it out quite a lot, because we want it to do really, really well, and that means we have to make some changes here and there along the way, but I really enjoy it. We take it in turns to do the sort of production side of it and do the background and write the show notes and all that, but Cap is also a parent. He works full time, he streams, we've got very similar kind of time pressures and things, so we've always said we will aim to do once a week, but we accept that as parents, as people who work full time, that may not always happen. And if somebody wants to come out and say, hey, look, we'll pay you each to just do this full time, I'm like, yeah, great, brilliant, bring it on. But that's a long ways off if it would ever happen. But I really enjoy it. I'm grateful that the opportunity happened again and that I was able to pick up a podcast. And I really enjoy it. And alongside doing the Twitch streaming, it's just... it feels really good at the moment. It feels really good. Like that side of it is, it's a joy.
That's what you want when it comes to podcasting and making content and just doing things that you love and that feel really good as they go.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really love about your podcast is that you're talking about some like really deep things. So I think you had an episode recently about, was it adoption?
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, just talking about adoption is always
Yeah.
like a highly emotional topic, I think. So
It is, yeah. And Caps, he won't mind me saying this because it's public knowledge that he is an adoptive parent, and he, part of the reason that we started talking shit was to talk about things that are important to us, and adoption is very important to him. And we treat it as a safe space to learn and grow, and we don't pretend to have all the answers because we're just two people. We're not necessarily experts in these topics, but they're important to us. And I learnt so much on that show about the adoption process in the UK, and it is different in different countries, and probably even in different regions of the UK it can be very different. So I learned a huge amount about the process and how long it actually takes. I mean, it is a long time, and you have to be committed before you even get matched with a child. You have been through at least 2 panel interviews, if not 3. It's a long process, and they do put you through the ringer, which is totally understandable because you're, proposing that you want to adopt a human being and raise them, and that it's important that is done with due care and consideration. But I had no idea that it took that long, or how much kind of energy that takes to go through that. So we talk about a lot of kind of emotional stuff like that. We've done lighter stuff. We've done TikTok. When TikTok was in the news, in America, well, around the world, but predominantly in America, we talked about TikTok. And it turns out that my experience of TikTok is very different to Cap's experience of TikTok. He's found it a bit not always as fun and joyful, and sort of finds himself falling into a black hole with it a bit, whereas I find it really uplifting and educational.
Interesting.
And so I've said to him, go back and try and change your algorithm a bit to see who you get shown, and see what comes up, because I have a lot of, well, at the moment I have a lot of pets. This has changed. So the TikTok algorithm will change. Like when I first got there, I was getting all the straight male thirst traps, which in some ways, yeah, brilliant. In other ways, like, minimum effort, boys. Really, minimum effort. Standing there doing the old licking your lips thing, waving it, kind of like top off at the camera. Ugh, God, it's boring. Yeah, it's so boring. Whereas I've shifted through. I have lesbian TikTok, trans TikTok, podcast TikTok, pets, cooking, comedy, all sorts of crazy stuff. Look, I'm now getting more mums in the UK. I've had a very heavy dose of US TikTok, and I seem to be working my way into the kind of UK mums TikTok. I get a bit of makeup TikTok, a bit of get ready with me TikTok, all these little bits that you can, for me, it's like a magazine. I just go in and pick out bits and pieces. And if I'm not interested in something, I mark not interested, and then I don't get it again.
All right.
Yeah.
Very curating your feed.
Yeah,
by
absolutely. Because
actively letting them know I don't want to see this anymore.
Yeah. And if I like something, I will, so if you you can heart stuff on TikTok, but if you spam your finger on that video, it creates more hearts, and it tells TikTok, I really like this. Show me more of this.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. I feel like I need a TikTok masterclass, like how to actually use this platform.
Well, I'm great as a consumer on there at the moment. I don't post a lot on there, and most of what I do post is stupid filters. Things like, how old are you? Which Game of Thrones character are you? All that, like, ridiculous. I'm not adding any value whatsoever. But I really just enjoy it. I just enjoy like a lot of the content. There's some gamers on there. There's Sims creators that I like for watching builds for The Sims. Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. There's one WoW streamer who she's had more success on TikTok than she has on Twitch in years, and she's a Twitch partner, but she's just tipped 100,000 followers on TikTok.
Oh, wow.
It's so hard to get live streaming on TikTok, though, isn't it? You need to have like 1,000 followers or something.
Yeah, you need 1,000 followers, and then you have to have an agency get you a key or something. I don't know.
What?
It's all,
Right.
yeah.
Sounds very complicated.
It is very complicated. But in terms of like consumption of media, I love it. So yeah, so we did an episode on that. We've done celibacy. We've done, this last episode was relationships over 40. And yeah, we got pretty graphic about like sexy times and how you have a sexy time when you're a single lady. And how you have a sexy time when you're in a gay couple, and like the dating apps, you know, which and sort of out of that.
I cannot imagine anything worse.
Well, out of that, yeah, it's horrendous. Out of that episode, I have said I'll start dating this year. Why have I done this to myself?
Yeah, I saw your tweets. I was like, okay.
Yeah. So I asked the question on Facebook earlier today. I was like, where, if I don't want to use the dating apps, where am I going to meet people? And people are like, go down the pub, go to these groups.
Who the fuck wants to do that?
Well,
Like,
not a sober person.
Who in the world ever made a great connection in the bar that lasted for a while?
Yeah, no.
Like the shit you need to weed through in a bar.
Yeah,
In
I was like, do I
person
just?
also?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Like, at least if it's on an app, you can swipe the shit away and ghost
Yeah.
or never
True,
talk to
true.
them ever
Yeah.
again. But if somebody's coming up to you at the bar and is rubbing their feet against you, like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Oh, that was a very specific.
That was
squeaky
specific,
little
yeah.
moment
To
there,
me,
Mon.
one
Oh my
time. That's the one
God.
time I go
No.
to a bar and then some weird ass dude comes up and starts rubbing his leg against mine while I was asking, waiting to get a drink, and I'm like, is this how it works? Like, what the fuck is happening here?
People are weird, man. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
That's messed
Yeah. No. I was on the dating apps about, I think it must have been 2 years ago, and I came off them, and I'd been dating. I think we'd done 5 dates. I'd had 5 dates, I think, with this guy, and I came off the dating apps. Oh dear. And I had to call it off with him. And nothing, like, I'd not even kissed him. And I realised, like, I had no attraction to him because he just annoyed me. And I was like, if that's the overriding feeling I have with somebody after 5 dates, that's not good, is it? And there was nothing wrong with him. I'm sure he was a very nice guy, and in other circumstances, somebody is going to do very well and have a lovely boyfriend, partner, future husband, whatever. But I just found him annoying. And that, you know,
that's why we like different people, right? So that
Yeah,
all of us have the
absolutely.
chance to
Yeah.
meet someone if they want to.
yeah. So we've talked a lot about sort of all sorts of things, really. And I think we're only on episode like 5 or 6 on talking shit. So we've got, you know, there's a lot of ground to cover, you know. And we did body dysmorphic disorder. There's things that we want to talk about, like bisexual erasure, and what else? Like, we've had an idea pitched to us, so there's people like pitching us ideas now, and people suggesting things, which is great. So there's all sorts of things that we can talk about and we want to talk about on the show. And as I said, I'm very lucky that Cap and I are, is it simpatico when you're like just kind of like in sync with each other a lot of the time? Yeah, that we are in that sort of position that we can do that, and that we both understand the things that each other's got going on outside of that as well, like streaming and building other content platforms. So yeah, it's it's all good, and I really enjoy it.
I'm so glad. So how long have you been streaming on Twitch now?
3.5-ish years. I think it. And yeah, it must be 3.5. It'll be 4 years in August.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 years in August. And I am not like a massive streamer. I have just over, I think, 1,100 followers.
Nice.
And I'm a little bit older than most streamer people are when they start streaming. I am 45 years old. And I've been around the houses a bit and come to terms with the fact that I am older than most people, and I have things like a mortgage that I have to pay, so I'm not going to be able to just decide, I'm going to go full time on creating content, and I'm okay with that.
Also, it's a. I think people also underestimate what it takes to be a content creator.
Oh yeah,
because not only I think there is a combination of a lot of things. I think that entire COVID area led people to believe that it's so easy to just become a streamer and be successful with it, but they don't look at the bigger picture and are not aware that this was a unique time in everyone's life where we literally didn't leave the house, right? So what are you going to do? What are people going to do? Obviously, they go to places like Twitch or whatever because it's the best combination you can find. It's a way to create community and meet people while you're still at home. So this was the perfect place to be, really, right? But that all changed now that people can go back out again. And obviously that's what you see. And then it's not just I'm going to sit here and I'm going to play a bunch of video games or whatever. There's so much more attached to all of it. And people sometimes just don't have the wider view of what it takes and how much work it actually is to really create content full time. And to make a living off of it that is making sense because of how fluctuating it is all the time, and you need to have some kind of security or worked really hard in a special and do like to have a certain security for yourself, because I think it's just genuinely a really insecure job to do as well.
It's not a stable income. Content creation on its own is not a stable income. If you're looking at like if you're just on Twitch, that's not a stable income. You can't guarantee that you're going to get X amount of gifted subs every month. And gifted subs as a I don't like to say smaller streamer, because I think you can have a smaller community and still have a big impact. But if people are gifting, like, this month is a really good example for me. I had my birthday's the 1st of April, so I had a birthday stream. I know that the gifted subs I got then will not be replicated next month. I cannot rely on that as an income. And to be a full-time streamer, so prior to Christmas, I was trying to stream 4 nights. And that left me with 3 nights the weekend, so I could do a additional stream on the weekend if I wanted to. But I was getting a bit burnt out. I was also having some serious software and hardware issues because I was on a Mac, and I've now got switched to a PC for the first time in a good few number of years. But if you're not able to do the things behind the stream, like the crazy things like setting up a stream deck so that you can have good interactions, setting up some add-ons like there's a website called Triggerfire which enables big interactions on your stream and all this sort of thing. If you haven't got the time to do that because all you're doing is streaming, I found I wasn't enjoying it as much. I really like to have the staff. Oh my God. I do not think of my community as staff. Jesus Christ, what a Freudian slip. Why did I say staff? What was I subconsciously thinking about? Anyway, I like to have my community interact. And one of the ways to do that is thing is to create, you have to create the ways that they can interact. And if you're always streaming like I was, and I like the time that I had spare, I was just always streaming, then I don't have time to do that sort of stuff. So when I had an enforced break because I had no means of streaming over Christmas and New Year and into the middle of January, I thought about what do I want my stream to look like when I come back? What things do I want? And I built a lot of the stuff through Triggerfire, through my Stream Deck, so that I could make things more interactive. And I stream 3 nights a week. I stream usually minimum of 2 hours. Depending on how I feel and what my child's needs are, I can go longer. And then I will usually stream 1 day at a weekend as well. And I will take full advantage of the plethora of bank holidays that are about to hit us in the UK over the next month as well.
There's so many.
There is. It's great.
Is, I know.
So I had to do that. But if you're a full-time content creator, part of your job is doing all of that stuff and then marketing yourself. So whether you're marketing yourself on Twitter, don't try it anymore, it's now shit, or or you're creating content on YouTube, or you're using your Twitch content to then post onto YouTube to make shorts or whatever, or onto TikTok or Instagram, it's a lot of work. And if you chuck into that other platforms that you might be creating content for, whether it's Ko-fi or OnlyFans or what's one of the other ones that's Patreon, all of those, you've got to have different content. You've got to have the time to create the content, to push it out. It's a lot of goddamn work.
Also, you need the space to find the creativity to come up with new shit. It's not just the implementing it all. It's like thinking of things to implement.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you need way more breathing room for that often, for ideas to even come to you again, especially when you're like treading so thinly like you did with your job and everything, like with being self-employed and all that. I think it's so underrated also to be aware that there is no time to be creative, to think about this. I can't sit at my job like while I'm on the shitter at the company that I'm employed at, getting paid for this, thinking about what I'm going to do during my stream, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's just that there's such a different dynamic, and
there is a huge
so much, and especially with streaming, you want to make it fun for people. You want to do great things and want to improve the stream, not even because you want to be successful and make a full-time living off of streaming, but because you like it, because you like the community aspect of it or whatever. And then you still want it to be better and be more enjoyable, and it's just so much brain power that goes into it too.
And that's exactly what I felt when I'd stopped the podcast, when I stepped away from third faction. And my brain is like a bit of a jumble apparently today. When I sort of stepped back from third faction and I stepped back from the guild at the beginning of last year, it was because I had no headspace. I didn't have the room to think creatively. And, stepping into a 9-to-5 job where there is guaranteed security in my income, and where I have a phenomenal group of colleagues and a boss, it's made it so much easier, and I have that brain space to be creative. I have to be careful that I don't do just streaming, if that makes sense. I have to give myself the downtime to allow that creative stuff to still come in. There are things that I want to do on stream that I haven't got round to yet. There are bigger things that I want to do with the interaction. But it is, as you said, Monica, for me, it is about having a really interactive community that are in a safe, inclusive space. I have people that I care about very, very dearly that have come through streaming. I'm not about to let them have a shit time online, so I will always do my best to protect them. And I just want to hang out with nice people and be silly and goofy and I know people who have caught me and Cap streaming together actually physically side by side will see that we are. The last time we did it, it was very impromptu, and I just rocked up at his house about 2 weeks ago, because we don't live close, but he lives in the vicinity of our office. So I was down there for training, and I just said, "Oh, I've just arrived." And then I messaged him about 10 minutes later and said, "Shall I come over? I know you're streaming, but shall I come over?" So, and I just sit there in the background being really goofy and distracting him and just having fun. Yeah. And that's, for me, that's what it's about. It's about like having a good time and being goofy and hanging out with your friends and having those friends feel safe and included, and not being scared that somebody's going to call them out or other them,
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
wanted to come back to what you said before, because you mentioned you are older just because you're 45, and that's maybe a different different to what you otherwise might see on Twitch. But I think you underestimate how many people want and need to see people like you doing it, because, and I said this a couple of times here on the podcast as well, I am not yet in where you are right now age-wise, but but I'm on my fast way there, and I barely have anyone, especially women, that are older than me, that are geeky as well, that I can look at and look up to and be like, oh, this is what it's like. So there is room and there is space for me too. When I'm older, this is not just me having a phase and not having grown up yet or whatever, and that I will ever grow out of it or whatever. It's totally fine. I am me, and I can be me just like that also when I'm older. And I think that's super fucking important. And I only got, I feel like only with Twitch I found a couple of people where I'm like, I just want to be like you when I'm older, right? And that's just
you when I grow up.
And that's just where I'm like, exactly. And that's it, right? Because what Anxiety Gamer says in chat, 45, and I think my folks are still waiting for me to grow out of it. I had people ask me when I got a tattoo of something geeky. People ask me that are 10 years younger than me, ask me, what if you grow up? And I'm like, I'm already 35. What the fuck do you mean? That was when I got it. And now I'm almost 38. So I'm like, what do you mean when I get old, when I grow out of it, when I'm older, when I become an adult? I'm already a fucking adult.
Exactly.
I do adult shit all the time. What do you mean? And so I think it's so important for people to see. And there is a big group of more mature people that want the same thing, the community that we're part of, and that the reason why I personally stuck around on Twitch mostly is because of Ben, who was in chat before. This is also a more mature audience, right? There are people that are well over 30 and older as well, and it's just we are there. We need room too. And yes, when you go to TwitchCon, you feel like the oldest person in the vicinity of it all. But it's still that what you built is great, and what is there's a space, and the space is, and even if it's just a small little space in comparison to the entire platform, it's a good one. It's a high quality one, and it's one that is needed by everybody who's in it. And so that's why I think it's fuck the general everything of Twitch, because whatever. But we need you, and we need people like you to do that, because we also need to be seen and have a space as well.
But I don't plan on going anywhere. So I think I learnt from Haughty Chicken, really, that especially as a woman, we can take up that space, and we should, and we shouldn't be apologetic for it.
Yeah.
And the older I've got, the more kind of unapologetic I have become, and the more pissed off and angry I have become at the people that try and say that we aren't in these spaces. And you mentioned shitposts on Twitter. One of the things that really annoys me is when they say, where's my 30 and up gamers? And I'm like, oh my God. There's people in their 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s playing video games, you know? As
They have been gamers longer than you have been alive.
Absolutely. As somebody who consider, you know, I'm kind of on the cusp of Gen X and millennials, but sort of this generation were the first to have computer consoles in their homes, you know. We've been around a long time. You know, we played Pong, darling. You know, you know, you know that those arcade machines from the 80s that you love in Stranger Things. That was us. That's our generation, bitch. You know, we've been around a long time. And I say I talk about my age and say, you know, I essentially I'm a middle-aged woman. That's basically, you know, that is the fact, and that's okay. But yeah, we are here. We're not. There should be space for us, and there is definitely a stereotype of the Twitch e-girl, and I don't fit that stereotype. And you know, don't get me wrong, if I could make bank, I absolutely would. You know, I have an OnlyFans. It's not active at the moment. Don't get excited. But I have an OnlyFans. It has made me some money. You know, and if I had the body and I could play the system, because that's what they're doing, full fucking power to them. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the F word.
Absolutely.
Okay. Excellent.
100%. One sentence if you want to.
You know, but I have no hatred towards girls and women that go out and utilize that. And, you know, as somebody who has posted pictures of her butt on OnlyFans and made some money, I class myself as a sex worker. So, you know, we're using the system, and if we can use it to our advantage, if we are not being exploited, if we are doing it of our own volition, and if we are doing it within our own power, then yes, go after it. And you know, there is the stereotype of the e-girl. Thanks so much, Belle Delphine, for that. I am not it, but I don't have to be it, and neither does anybody else. And it took Courtney being in the space, and it took me seeing a few other people around the space for me to realise I don't have to, like, conform to something else. And I think part of my journey as a Twitch streamer was just finding my feet a lot. A bit like on TikTok. I don't post a lot on TikTok because I'm still figuring out who I am on there. And it took me a long time to do that on Twitch. But you can't do it if you're not in it. If you're not actually doing stuff, if you're not creating the content, you can't figure it out. So you just have to do it. You really do just have to do it and then figure it out and get better and find your space and, you know, your people. And I've been very lucky that I have found some really great people. I've got mods now. I had mods at the beginning who really I didn't really know. Some of them shouldn't have been mods. And I just kind of, I think I made them a mod because I thought they were loud in chat, and I thought they were going to look after. Yeah. Don't do that.
I think that's how I got my sword in place.
But you could, you know, I think they were loud in chat. Some of them were from another streamer, and I'm still friends with that streamer, but I don't really sort of take part in their community very much. And those people were they didn't stick around. They weren't the right kind of people. Now I have the right kind of people, one of whom, AG, is in chat now. You know, and I have the mods that I have now, I absolutely trust 110%. They've got my back, I've got their back, and I will not take anyone giving them shit, basically. I have some marginalised people in my mods, and I'm not going to let them, you know, be mistreated or anything. And I'm very, very grateful for them. I'm very grateful for the community that we're building on the Twitch channel and in the Discord. And I hope that the people that are in there feel that they are able to be fully themselves and let out the kind of goofy side of them from every now and again, and just have a good time, and we do talk about difficult stuff on stream as well. My kiddo pops in, so we talk about parenting. We talk about, I talk a lot about perimenopause because it's fucking shit.
I heard that, and I've also heard
God.
that once again, this is something that women do not talk about until you're in it, and then all of a sudden everybody is so like, what the fuck is even going on?
Yeah.
And just because if we would have had some kind of conversation, that would have made it easier for everyone, but instead we just keep quiet about shit like this until it's too late and everybody is blown out of their fucking mind as to what is the body doing right now.
I am not going to be quiet about it. I am going to shout it from the rooftops. It is absolute hell. It is like puberty with experience, because you can feel that teenage angst. Yeah, that teenage angst that you had where you hated everybody. You can feel all of that rage, and you're like, I know
menopause for 3 years or so.
And you're just like, I know what this is. I know what this feeling is. This is fucking hormones, and I can't do much about it. I can't, and you feel like you're watching yourself. You're having an out-of-body experience while you're having this rage, and you can't do anything. Or the brain fog that I had, not this period, the period before, for a whole week. I had a week where I had 5 days of headache and brain fog, and 2 days where I was just a raging mess. And that's what it's like. And you do feel like you're going crazy. And I am going to talk about it a lot. The mental health side of it is far more disturbing for me than anything that my body physically would go through. I've not had any hot flushes. I don't get it. People get itchy ears. People get tinnitus. You get
tinnitus?
Yeah, tinnitus is a legit symptom of perimenopause. There's 50 symptoms. You can have so you can get itchy ears. You can also get heat rashes across your body. Obviously you get all the normal things that you get with a period. So if your hormones are fluctuating and you get sore boobs, your periods go up and down. You can have longer periods, short periods, no periods. You can spot in between your periods. You can, your tendons will hurt. Your tendons can hurt. Headaches, brain fog. What else have I seen? Dry eyes, dry vagina. What else? Dry, itchy skin. Which, these are all things that are associated with menopause.
I feel like I've been in perimenopause for about 10 years.
Yeah. Literally, I'm just drinking them I have itchy ears for a while now. What the fuck is going on?
It can start, so they say average age for starting perimenopause is age 40, but you can start up to 5 years either side of that. Some say 7 years either side, and it could go on for between 7 and 15 years.
Yay!
Oh fuck!
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Hate that we are
deep breath.
This is just pissing me the fuck off.
Yeah.
We always have the short fucking stick with everything here, right?
Yep.
What do they have? Hard cock and nothing else, or what?
A wet dream every now and again. And they don't even wash their ass properly, It's just...
Well, I feel like we could have an entire episode on perimenopause, and maybe we will one day.
I feel we need that because I feel I need to get ready for this now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will happily share my current experiences of perimenopause with you. Yes, more than happy to do that.
Maybe
it's a lot.
That's something that will happen.
I feel we need to talk about this more because women's health, or people with uteruses, is health. Uteri, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The plural of uterus. nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit about what is going on with us and our bodies and whatever. And nobody fucking cares. And it's pissing me off to no end.
Do you want to know something else that'll piss you off, Monica?
Yes, please.
You know how we're taught the symptoms of a heart attack are numb left arm, chest pain.
Different for women, I know.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So that's the male symptoms.
Yeah.
Women's symptoms are
Fuck all of
completely
that.
different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. If men had dealt with periods and perimenopause,
There would have been solutions and medications and
everything. Yeah. It would all have been solved like 30, 40, 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't have any of this happening. So, yes, I will beat the drum about perimenopause. I am quite... I do get on my high horse a bit about things that bother me, usually things that I'm going through. So when I had some serious mental health issues about 3 years ago, maybe a bit longer, I talked a lot about that. When I went sober, I talked a lot about that and how that actually eased my mental health and helped me a lot. And now it's perimenopause, and we just don't talk about it enough. I think there's a lot more coming out now as the perception and portrayal of women, particularly in the media, through shows, through actors, actresses, through journalists, everybody is like, women are not phased out. We don't magically hit 40 and disappear from public life anymore. You know, Davina's written a book about it. Madonna is 60 odd and still challenging people's perceptions of what a woman is, and whether you're, you know, she would be chastised if she'd let herself grow old without any plastic surgery, as much as she is chastised for having plastic surgery. She can't win. Women can't win anyway. But as women are getting older and being more publicly seen, they are talking about it more, and they are setting the you know, they are taking up space for all of us coming. And I think that's a very strong part of everything that I do. If I don't make this better, who is coming behind me? Who is following behind me? How have I helped them if I haven't challenged this, if I haven't tried to make it better? And whether it's perimenopause, whether it's inclusive communities, whether it's, you know, challenging the school system for the benefit of my son, challenging the patriarchy for the benefit of my son, because it damages him as much, if not more, than me.
I think people, and men mostly, I guess, would realize that when women go on and marginalized groups go on about the patriarchy, it's not about wanting to harm them, it's something that also benefits them. But there's no understanding of that anyway. No.
If you're a child who goes to school and is told that something is restricted to one gender or another, and it is frowned upon for you as a boy to have nail varnish, what kind of message is that sending? You know, or if you go in as a girl with short hair, or you go in and you say, actually, I'm neither of those things. I don't want to be known as a girl or a boy. I'm just me. And I wear the clothes that I want to wear. And if your school try and force you into a uniform of one gender or another, you know, that's not helpful, and that's not giving that child their rights. And I look at the way the schools, in general, now treat children of primary school age, and the amount of homework that they have to process, and I'm a bit like, why? And it's nothing to do with the children. It's because the teachers have to get them through the SAT so that the school gets a good result. That's all it is. That's all it is. And it's not. The teachers have been put in this system, and the children are. You know, I went to university. I didn't do primary school homework. You know, it's ridiculous. I mean, that's a whole other rant. But like, you know, teachers, unfortunately, some of them, in my experience, reinforce those stereotypical patriarchal role models. And, you know, they enforce children to toe the line and be good children. And, you know, and if you're a good child, fit the mold. Exactly. When it comes back to the thing, if we judged everybody on how they climbed a tree, a fish would never get an A. You know, a monkey would, but a fish wouldn't.
Yeah. Right. And if you tried to ask a monkey to hold its breath, it would not also do very well.
Yeah. So I find a lot of that traditional setup around the patriarchy and the rest of it all very confrontational. And we should just burn it all down, frankly.
I agree. Absolutely.
I'd be here for that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Do you have time, Demi, for a few questions from the community?
Yes, of course.
Wonderful. So we had 2 questions come in on Twitter. One very serious and one less serious, but I'm going to ask you anyways because I would like to know the answer. So the first one came from Syrub, KOC. Demi, as a fellow content creator, how do you gather the motivation to continue creating? I've hit a pretty bad wall and I don't know how to get back into the groove of creation. Any tips?
Oh, I think some of this podcast has probably covered a lot of that, about giving yourself that headspace to find that creative urge. And I think taking a break is sometimes a really solid answer. If you cannot force yourself with content creation, because I definitely was forcing myself before Christmas. I was poorly and I did Dragonflight launch, and then about 6 weeks later I got poorly again and I had to take time off work because I was ill, because I'd just not taken the time off to start with, because I'd forced myself to keep streaming, keep working, and then my computer couldn't handle it. And then I was like, okay, well, I am now on a forced break, and what that has done is enable me to, like I said before, go away, think about it all, plan how I want it to actually look, and then come back. So I definitely think taking a break, and within that break saying to yourself, I am going to use this to just empty my mind. Like, I'm not going to think about anything, and then the creativity will start to come back. I also think in terms of creation in streaming and podcasting is to go and see what other people are doing. And not to compare yourself negatively, but to get ideas. There's a couple of streamers that I have learned a lot from just watching. So Corey Missildine is very, very good at monetizing the different channels. He will disagree with me. I know he will disagree with me. But he's very good at monetizing the different channels. And I've learned a lot from him about, especially as a British person, not being afraid to ask for money. So I've learned a lot from him. I've also learned from some other very big streamers who I won't name because it's not fair, that don't monetize themselves. And I kind of think, oh, how do you make your money? Where does your income come from? Because no merchandise, no other, you know, they might do YouTube and Twitch, but they don't have any merchandise and they don't have any Patreon and they don't, you know, and those things they can all add up. So go and see what other streamers are up to, and other podcasters, and treat it as like a day in school, really. Just be like, what can I learn? What can this person teach me? And quite often you can watch people and they can be utter shit. And you can learn, well, that's what I don't want to do. And then you'll go along and find somebody else. There's a guy, I think his name, I'm sure I'm going to get this wrong. I think his name is Metal Benji. I'm not sure. And I can't remember who. I think it was an OK Mage stream that raided him. And he'd had his whole system die. And he was resetting his entire stream with all of its interaction. And that's where I was like, I want this level of interaction. It was bonkers. But just all those kinds of things, like take a step back. And then when you do come back, when you are ready, build in some time so that you're not doing the content creation all the time. Which is what I've learned. Like going from 4 nights to 3 nights with an optional, an optional night. It's given me much more headspace. It's enabled me to go and enjoy other people's streams and to build in that time to do the stuff that gives me that creative headspace, really. And hanging out and having fun in other streams and on other podcasts and just, yeah. So give yourself a bit of a break, take some time, and then reschedule it when you come back, that you give yourself that headspace on an ongoing basis, I would say. It's really important.
That's really, really great advice. And I see a lot of people in chat
General
agreeing.
life advice.
Yeah, general life advice.
For
Yeah.
sure. No, so helpful.
Everything in balance. It's not always easy, though. Yeah.
And our final question, I think it's a pretty good one to end on, came from Titan's Creed. And Pete wants to know, why are you so cool?
I looked at this one and I was like, you know what? Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking cool. And other times I'm like, no, it's not. I'm really not. And it's like, I think it's like with everybody. We all have moments where we feel like we're the mutts nuts. And then we all have moments where we feel like we're really nothing very special. I spent a long time in my 20s and 30s feeling not very special at all. And I sort of reclaimed myself. And I think I've managed to surround myself with people that I think are pretty cool and that kind of uplift me and inspire me. And it takes a lot to get to a point where you don't give a fuck. But once you get there, it's really valuable. And I think cool is just... It's very subjective. Because we're all geeks and we're all in the same sort of space and content creation and podcasting and all the rest of it, it's easy for us to look at each other and go, oh, that person's so cool. But if I went out on like down my local high street, they'd just be like, who the fuck are you? We don't know who you are, you crazy woman. Get out of here.
Things you're interested in. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Because
like,
I mean, if we're really honest, like in the grand scheme of the world of things, we are not the cool ones.
no, I'm a geek, for goodness sake. You know, literally, we're not the cool ones. We weren't the cool ones at high school. You know, we also weren't the ones who peaked at high school, thankfully. But yeah, I think it's a subjective term. And whilst I very much appreciate the compliment, I try and keep my feet on the ground by knowing that none of my family or my oldest friends understand what I do, and they just think I'm a straight up nerdy geek, and that's fine. And if I'm cool within the geek circles, then I will take that.
I love that. And also, like, I think that it is cool that we are all cool. And, like, because really, what is the definition of cool, right? Like, we're cool because we want to be.
Yeah. That works.
This has been just an incredible episode. I've loved chatting with you, Demi. I've loved hearing your thoughts and loved all of Moni's insights as well. Before we close up, we actually have this question at the end of all of our interviews, and it's like, what advice would you give someone interested in this? But I think this entire episode has been advice. Like, it has been fucking awesome. Like, everything that you have said has just been like, I wish I had my own notepad so that I was taking notes the entire time. Like, top tier. So before we close up, is there anything else that you'd like to say, to bring up, to chat about?
I think there is one thing, and you two probably won't, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but your podcast is a little touchstone for me. And I think back to the first episode that kind of made me really like sit up and pay attention was the one with Professor Tleep. And it's what you're doing is important, and please keep doing it, and thank you.
Okay, well, we didn't ask you that question to make us cry.
No, I'm not trying to make you cry. I think it's important when you're doing stuff that makes a difference that people remember to tell you that, because often they don't, and it's just assumed that you know, and we don't always know. So, you know, people have said nice things to me, and I think it's important that when I've had a good experience and I've learnt something and appreciated somebody's content creation and the space that they've created that I tell them to. So,
well, thank you very much. That was very kind and unexpected. And Moni doesn't do very well with comments, and I don't either. But Moni does it by deflecting, and I just get really awkward and talk too much. So thank you so much. Where can our lovely listeners find you on this World Wide Web that we're all calling home?
Pretty much everywhere under @Demeternoth, which is DEMETERNOTH. Or you can find me on, I think, Instagram and TikTok. I'm Demeter Does, because I fucked up my own name and set up accounts under like an email, and then like didn't remember what email I'd set it up under, so couldn't log back in, so I had to change. Anyway, yeah, Twitch, Twitter are the main two, and that's Demeternoth. And I'll be streaming tonight, probably in like hour and a half-ish. I might start a bit early because I'm doing the hardcore classic challenge in WoW at the moment. It's very scary. So yeah, so those are the Twitter and Twitch are probably the best places to catch me and catch my gems of shit posts. I do shit post, and occasionally a bit of a rant, and sometimes something funny, and sometimes something heartfelt. You know, the full gamut of human experience.
On the platform that we're all hating and loving and hating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hating and loving and hating it. Ain't that the truth?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll put links to all of your social media and your Twitch in our show notes as well. So if you didn't get a chance, or I'm not sure how to spell Demeternoth, even though she spelled it out, just click on the links in the show notes, because they will take you there.
Thank you so much for your time and all your great insight today. It was so cool.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
It's
been a pleasure.
Here. And we will see you next week on Geek Herring for another amazing episode.
Bye.
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 Totally not awkward.
So awkward. Just like, yeah.
The end is always the worst. So we just paused the recording. We're still on Twitch. But
we're still live.
Yeah.
Hi, Twitch chat. Thanks for hanging out.
Exactly, the
thanks,
fake
everyone.
goodbye.
Gemma said really loved this episode. It was exactly what I needed today and didn't realize it.
Oh,
Love that. Thanks, Gem. And Liz echoes Gem. Really need to hear what I managed to hear. Listen and witter on, yeah.
Oh, yes. We all love a good witter, AG. We love a good witter.
Amazing. What do you mean oversharing? I don't know why Lisa always thinks she's oversharing. Some
Yeah,
people
I don't
told
know.
her weird shit when she was younger, because I never feel she's over. I mean, you are not the one who's telling on their second day on internship what kind of contraception to use to the secretary that's sitting there. So I
What? Okay.
I feel like I have a very low bar of what's too much information.
Yeah. Listen, Liz, on the last episode of Talking Shit, I talked about how I had pleasured myself the night before, and my darling friend Cap Fantastic talked about some sexual acts with bottoms, as he's a gay man. So, you know, we quite often overshare.
Being in the queer Twitch community are like mind blowing to me. Like,
yeah.
4 years ago, Moni had no idea. I mean, I still have not a lot of ideas, but fuck me, did she have no idea.
Yeah.
It's so educational.
It's eye-opening, isn't it? Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Not only eyes, I guess. Never mind. Cool.
Okay. Good conversation.
We started talking about poop and we're ending talking about bottoms and all sorts of things. You know, it's fine.
Yeah. Or that time that Moni found out what a popper was. That was a good conversation.
Oh, okay.
This is not apparently, in my defense, aside from the fact that I have very little, My sexual experience is limited in some ways, yeah? It's also that they are not legal here.
Oh,
So
really?
Nobody I know would... And I had very little contact to gay people before. That sounds like I didn't want to have contact, but I live in Bumfuck, a hillbilly town. There are like maybe 3 of them, and I don't know them, you know? So I had no idea about any of this. Until it came to Twitch chat and people explained to me what it was doing. I thought also this was a drug and people were drinking it when they started to talk about this. Then I figured out it's not necessarily like this.
No, we had them like as a teenager in the UK. One of the like things that you would do would, I mean, like this was like everybody. This wasn't particularly like queer folk. This was just everybody because it made you high for about 30 seconds. So they sniff poppers. And then be like, oh, I've got a headache.
It was Alcopops, and those were the vodka ice or whatever they were called, hooch and shit. That's what people had discussions about here.
Yeah, no. Poppers, what else? Well, we had like White Lightning, which was like high alcohol content, really bad quality cider. And then, yes, Liz, quick whiff, headache, done. Exactly it. Yeah. Yeah. No concept at like 17 years old in a very heterosexual, boring town. That's what they were used for. You know? Not a clue. Not a clue. See? But then I grew up in the 90s in the UK when Section 28 existed and we weren't allowed to talk about like anything outside of heterosexual relationships at school. So, that is what it was.
Let's get spun to fucking vomit tuna casserole. Reliving my youth.
Reliving mine, I think, there as well. That seems to sound very familiar.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, God.
I could talk to you all day, Demi.
I feel seen. Lol.
This is why AG is one of my mods, you see.
Yeah. Like, we all have the mods we deserve.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We do, for sure.
For sure. All right.
Cool.
Shall we rate out?
Yep. You tell me.
Demi, who would you like us to rate today? Do you have anybody
goodness.
lovely live?
Let's have a look.
Rate me, I've had a popper. Oh, lol.
Liz is open for business.
Gemma's right there. I'm sure Gemma will comply.
There's somebody that I know who is a very good ally. I don't know if you guys know Wochi TV.
I know the name, but I don't know if I've been over there.
I have no idea how to spell it. Can you?
You want me to type it in chat?
That would be so cool.
Oops, hang on.
There
we go. AG's done it. So Wochi leads the Dungeon Dojo, which is one of the stream teams that I'm part of. But he's a very, very good LGBTQ ally. He's just a decent human being, really. He's playing World of Warcraft, and I think, what is he up to? Let me open that up. He is doing... he's doing Mythic plus Keys. So the Dungeon Dojo, the setup of it is to help people get back into raiding or Mythic plus. So stuff that's a bit daunting at endgame in World of Warcraft, basically. Mm-hmm. But to do it in a non-toxic, safe environment. I stepped back in with them, and Wochi basically, like, if he could have held my hand physically, I think he would have done. He was so lovely and helpful and took me through it all, along with Pendapolo, actually, who was our healer. And he's a really big-hearted person, and he teaches people in a, like I say, in a safe, inclusive environment, and the dojo is a very inclusive space. He actively, makes sure that it's a good spot. They did remove somebody over the wizard game, and those of us in the team, won't stream the wizard game. If people choose to, that's on them, but they won't be part of the team. So it is very friendly and welcoming, Tom. Yeah, it's a good spot, and as I say, I think he will appreciate it. He doesn't always talk to chat because he's concentrating, so you might have to watch him for that. But he's a good egg. He's a good human. So
cool beans.
Yeah, wonderful.
Perfect.
Well, yes, let's go see. Let's go see him.
I left
Thank you so much
for
for
some of
the recommendation.
Jinx. Also, hi Jinx.
Yeah, hello, Jinx.
Jinx is also one of my. I can be a
Heroes.
geek when I'm older.
Nice. We like that.
Role model, woman, person. Who I bow to emotionally every day when I wake up. One for Jinx.
All right. Well, our next show is tomorrow with the wonderful Gemma and Liz. They're with We Have a Query, where they're reviewing Circus of Books, a documentary on Netflix. Excited for that one.
I've seen things about that.
I watched it last night. It was excellent. Highly recommend. Can't wait for the episode. Thanks. I'm just watching this raid timer countdown. Thank you so much, everyone, for
Thank
being
you again,
here.
Demi.
And thank you, Demi.
My pleasure.
And thank you for all the lovely new follows and to our fab mods as well.
Have a good day,
Have
everyone.
a good one.
See you soon.